Alright, so for all the work we've done so far, we've got the base system going, believe it or not. You might not have played around with it yet, but we have everything set up. And when we begin play for the character, we're just going to set the number or the size of the inventory to 4. And we're also going to say current interactable is equal to null pointer. Just by default, it's going to be equal to null pointer. That's what we need to do. We'll just save that. If we go into the editor now, I've dragged a pickup into our level, and I've set up its properties. So we'll set the value to 100, because why not? And we'll set the item name to sphere. And although we're not going to see that stuff in game yet, it's all there. This is also, so this is our pickup. We also have the thumbnail. This is the thumbnail that is shown in the inventory when we pick the item up. So say we want this to be the thumbnail, even though this isn't the thumbnail. Say we want it to be, we just click on that, and now this is the thumbnail that will show up in the inventory when we pick this pickup up. As you can see, the help text down here is also press E to pick the item up. And in this case, when we play the game, it's going to say press E to pick sphere up. And yeah, that's it. So something really cool if I go play here, and we'll just open up my first person character, and we'll go to search bar, and we'll just type in inventory. This is my inventory that we made. You remember how we made a T array of pickup items? This is it here. And if we pick one up, it's not added to the array yet. The reason that I didn't recompile that code, alright, but once I do that, it will set my inventory size to 8, and then we'll be able to pick this up, and this will be the first item in the inventory, which will be quite cool. So if we hit play, I don't know if I've got this set up to add it to the inventory yet, but anyways, that's dragging an item, and if I pick it up, you can see it disappears from the level and stuff. But I don't think it gets added to the inventory yet, just because we haven't linked all that behavior. But in this tutorial, I'm going to be finishing that stuff off, and yeah, we'll finish that off, start getting into the HUD stuff, and then we'll be able to go into the shop, finish off the series. So anyways, I'll see you there. Alright guys, we're finally ready to start building some of the inventory and stuff like that. So this is going to be really cool. First thing we need to do before we do that is actually just add one little line on pickup.cpp. You might remember I added this comment, put code here that places the item into the character's inventory. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if the item was added to the inventory successfully, so if character add item to inventory this. If we were able to add the item to the inventory, then on picked up gets called. If we couldn't add the item to the inventory, then it doesn't get called, because you wouldn't destroy the item if we didn't pick it up, right? It doesn't make sense. So that's that. We have finished that off. Right. Let's build the inventory HUD now. And then we'll set that up so that we can open and close the inventory. So by the end of this tutorial, you'll be able to open and close the inventory. And then finally, we'll do the shops. Open and closing the shops inventory. And yeah, so anyways, go to HUD, inventory, and let's start building the inventory. Now, this in itself is going to be a bit of a task. It won't be that easy. There's going to be a bit of work to it. So, last thing we need to do, before we add this, is we go to assets here. I seem to have lost it. I used to have some backgrounds. You might remember in the demo I had a background. Let's just, for now, we'll just use text, why not? And we'll set up the text. Set it to 72. We will center the text. And I'm going to set the text to say inventory, of course. We're then going to center that, so set the anchor to be in the center. And we'll just compile and save really quick. What we're going to do now is drag in some buttons that represent the inventory slots. Speed up the tutorial, I'm going to make 4 buttons, because I don't really want to have to go through and make 8 of them right now. It's a little bit too time consuming, but we'll make these buttons, and anchor them accordingly. And just put those in there. Now, if you were making a proper game, you would give a big deal of care to making sure these buttons were aligned and equally spaced apart and all that beautiful looking stuff. But again, this is a tutorial. I just want to get it done nice and fast. You know, I don't want to stress over the details. So we've added those buttons in. We're going to drag an image onto each button, and this image is going to display the item, the thumbnail for that item. We'll click on that, and I'm just going to quickly chuck the assets that I'll have linked in the description. I'm going to add them to my project, so I'll start recording when I've added those to my project. Okay, I'm back, and I've dragged the two assets into my level. You can check the description to get these assets. All I did was I viewed the models, and then I just screenshotted them, saved them as JPEG, and just imported them into the editor here. So let's go back to my inventory. Click this little image. Just to make sure it's working properly, we're going to go to Brush, select the image, and I'm just going to make it the statue. So if we go T, thumbnail statue, we should now see the statue. I'll set these all up to use the... I'll set these two up to use the statue, actually. Whoops. Go. And I will set these ones up to use the chair. We also need some text underneath the buttons to describe the item that is in that inventory slot. So for example, this text here is going to say statue. The text blocks underneath these inventory slots are going to say chair. Keep in mind, although I've put statue and chair icons on these, when we start the game, we'll have it set up so that those aren't showing. We're just putting these on now just so I can make sure everything's working, basically. So let's center that, and we're going to make a bunch more of these. And again, I'm not making this pretty because I just want to get the concepts out there. If you're implementing this in your own time, you can put a lot more work into making sure it looks good if you want. So we've got that, and it's all set up. I'm just going to name these appropriately. So again, you guys don't want to watch me do that. I'll start recording again once I've renamed all of the stuff in here. Okay, let's link the inventory in our code. So when we press I, it actually opens the inventory, as opposed to what's been happening right now, which is we press I and absolutely nothing happens. So how do we get the inventory to open? And it's quite easy to do, in fact. So let's get into how to do that. So the first thing we want to do is go to the inventory character.cpp, and we'll find our implementation of toggle inventory. So if I scroll through here, there it is there. Alright, we'll just put a little comment here. Check player's HUD state if inventory is open. Then close it. Otherwise, open inventory. So pretty simple little concept here. Not hard to wrap your head around how this function works. First thing we need to do is get a reference to the game mode. So we say inventory game mode, and we can't get that because we haven't included it. So let's scroll up and include that. So we say include inventory game mode.h. Once we've finished implementing this very short function, then we will start to link our inventory so that when we pick up an item, we actually see it pop up in the inventory. It's going to be quite cool. But anyways, let's make this. So what we're doing here is getting a reference to the current game mode. We're saying a inventory game mode, cast it into an inventory game mode, and then take whatever we get, and whatever we get we cast into an inventory game mode. We're calling get world, and then get orf game mode. So that's going to get the current game mode. Now what we need to do, something very simple. Simple if else statement will do. So all we do is we say if the HUD state actually no, we have to use get HUD state, that's right, because I made that a getter function. If it is equal to the in-game HUD state, so if we're in the in-game HUD state, change the HUD state to the inventory. So change HUD state, and then change it to HS inventory, so HUD state inventory. If we're not in the in-game HUD, if we're in some sort of other HUD, then take us back to the in-game HUD. So to do that, we'll just copy this, and we'll change the HUD to HS in-game. That's it. And so this will open and close the HUD. So let's try it out. Compile. Open up the inventory here while it's compiling and just work on the inventory. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drag in an image. And for the image you can use a brush. Go to color and opacity. I'm going to make it black because why not? Go OK. And what you can do is actually drag this image over the whole thing. We'll set the anchor to center it. And then drag this right up to the top here and parent it under canvas panel. So everything is displayed on top of it. And now we have a nice black background. All I did for my inventory was I made up a little background myself on Photoshop, and I did the same thing. I just didn't use the color black, I used the image that I made. So we'll compile and save this. And when we play, hit I, takes us to our inventory, hit I again, closes our inventory. And as you can see, you can click buttons. There's a wee problem where we're tabbed into the game, so if you click the background it shoots. I'm not really sure how to get rid of that. I'll probably look into it and then I'll be able to update you guys on how to fix that little issue. Click on the text blocks, drag these anchors onto them, because as you could see when we were in the game the text was a little bit misaligned. So there we go, that's our inventory. Here comes the slightly harder part. Getting the thumbnails for whatever items are in our inventory, and getting the item names for whatever items are in our inventory. So, let's look into how to do that. Click on the first button and go to the image, and as you can see the brush is set to statue, but we can actually bind something to this button so that it changes depending on what our bind is. So we're going to go to create binding, we'll get rid of this, and under functions I'm going to get plus function, and I'm going to make a new function called get thumbnail from slot. On the inputs it's going to have a integer, so this is the inventory slot we're trying to access, and then the outputs, if we go to structure, it is a I believe a slate brush is what we want, and the output is going to be called thumbnail. So how this function works is we give it a slot that we want to access, and then we access that slot and it returns a thumbnail. So to get the thumbnail from the inventory slot, we're going to go get player character. We're going to cast the character into our character, convert it to a pure cast because we know it will be successful. We drag that off and we go get thumbnail at inventory slot, and for the slot just plug that into there, and then you want to go make slate brush, I believe, no, make brush, there we go, make brush from texture, and then you simply drag that into there. So now we have a function that you give it an inventory slot and it gets the thumbnail for us. That's very handy. Let's see what we've got wrong here. Get brush 0 has the wrong number of arguments. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, we just didn't set that up. Anyways, we have this function, get thumbnails from slot. So all we need to do is right click, type in get thumbnail from slot to use our function. And then we just plug the arrow in, plug this into the return node, and then plug the thumbnail from our slot into this little thing here. And now we're getting the thumbnail at slot number 0. And because this is inventory item number 0, it makes sense to get the slot number 0. I'm also going to rename this, just because I like to keep things tidy, we're going to rename this to get thumbnail 1, or 0 rather. We'll compile this, save it, and now if we go into the game and open up our inventory, we have this blank slot here. But watch, when I pick up an item, let's drag up, pick up into the game, set the mesh for it, and we'll set our inventory item slot, we'll just set it to brick, why not? Obviously that's not a good inventory slot, but just as an example. So as you can see, if I open my inventory, we don't have any item there. When I pick up this cube, however, now I have the inventory slot associated with that cube. So that's the idea with getting the thumbnails. We're going to create one more, and then I'm going to pause recording and I'll go back and we'll finish this off. So let's go to the next button here, and we're going to repeat the exact same process, but you see it's very easy now because we've made the function. So if we go create binding, all we need to do is type in get thumbnail from slot. Because this is now slot number 1 and not slot number 0, we're going to type in 1. So we're getting the thumbnail for slot number 1 in our array. Plug that in, compile, save. We'll do the exact same for this one. Bind, create binding. Get thumbnail from slot. This is slot number 2, so we'll plug these in. And you can see we're using a function to do all the work for us. Create binding. Drag that out. Get thumbnail. Now this is slot number 3, so we're going to type in the number 3. Not 330. There we go. Alright, so that's all plugged in. Sweet. Awesome. So everything we've got now is now working. Each slot is now mapped up to be working correctly. The next thing I want to do is the item names. You can understand how this gets a bit tedious, but we're going to map these up as well. So you can bind text to the text block. So all we need to do is go create binding. And again, I'm going to do this in a function way. So we've got get thumbnail 0. We'll just rename these again. Sorry guys, I have to do this. This is just part of needing everything to be perfect. So get thumbnail 2, get thumbnail 3. Cool. So this gets the item name for the first slot, right? That's what we're saying. Let's make a function to do that, just like we did with get thumbnail from slot. Let's make another function called get item name from slot. And this is going to be just as easy. So all we do, start out, we take an input as integer, call it slot, and we output some text, and that is called item name. So all we do is we say get player character, drag it out, get item, what is it called? Oh wait, we're going to cast it first. Cast to inventory character, convert it to pure cast, drag that out, get item, gotta find what it's called. Given and I might have named that wrong accidentally. Yeah, given item name. Whoops. Get item name. My brain is not working today. That's weird. Okay, let's fix that up. So we'll say get item name. That's kind of weird. Let me compile that. Sorry guys. I apologize for my brain and its weird ways. But we do have to recompile this before we can go back into the HUD. Alright, we'll drag this out now that that's fixed, and type in get item name at inventory slot. Since this is slot 0, we'll use that. Plug that in, done. File, save, done. So let's rename, let's go back into this actually. So this is the thing that's getting the text for the first slot, and we're going to rename this one, because that name is awful. We're going to rename this to get name 1. And we're going to use our little function we made, get item name from slot. Again, all we need to do, plug this in, plug that in, done. And this is the first slot, so we use 0. Now we're going to make this a little bit faster actually. I forgot that we could do this. Just going to use the right click and hit duplicate. So this is the first one, slot 0. Second one, we use slot 1. Third one, slot 2. Fourth one, slot 3. Cool. Go back to the designer. On text block number 1, it's bound to get name 1. On text box number 2, we need it to be bound to That's weird. Maybe I'll do... Oh, weird. We might have to compile. That might be the problem. There we go. So 2 is going to use getName 2, getName 3, and then getName 4. And the images need to be on the same thing. Get thumbnail 3, get thumbnail 2, so on and so forth. Compile that, save that, and now our inventory should be fully mapped up. It should be all working. I know there was a lot of weird blueprinty stuff, and if you're into C++, you might have been a bit confused by what was all going on there. But once you do it a few times, you'll get the hang of it. All we were doing was just mapping up the inventory so that it works and it talks to our C++ functions. If you remember those really boring functions we built, well, now we're actually using them. We're talking to our C++ from blueprints, which is kind of cool. So let's do the same thing as last time. We'll just add a random thumbnail just to make sure it works, and we'll give it an item name. Brick, I guess, will do. As you can see, nothing in our inventory. We pick up our brick, and now we have brick and the associated thumbnail. So, very cool. In fact, I don't know why I've been using this in brick. Let's drag in a pickup. We'll make it thumbnail chair. Item name is chair. Make it valued at 100 maybe. And then here, we will say chair. Now this actually makes sense. I don't know why I did it with the cube. Alright, so I have nothing in my inventory. Let's pick up the chair. And now, you can see I have a chair in my inventory. Done. That's it. So, I've been recording for 15 minutes now, but I want to do one last thing. I want to add you the ability to use items. This is something that, you know, you're probably maybe a little bit confused on. How does each item have its own ability to be used? And when I click the button in my inventory, how do I use the item? Let's get into that. This is the last thing we're going to be going over in this tutorial, but very, very handy stuff. I mean, obviously, our inventory would be useless if it only displayed the items. We want to be able to use them as well. So let's get that set up. To do that, we're going to go into the Blueprints, HUD inventory, and you can see we've got our inventory buttons here. So we're going to go to onClicked and just click. And we'll go to inventory button 2, add an onClicked for that. Inventory button 3, add an onClicked for that. And inventory button 4, add an onClicked for that as well. Then we're going to go to functions, and we're going to go plus function, use item at slot. So this is a new function I'm making, and all it does is take a slot of type integer, and what it does is it gets the player character, so get player character, cast the character into our character, convert that to a pure cast. What we're going to do now is drag this off, and then say use item at inventory slot. That's that C++ function that we built. Now just plug the slot in, and there you go. That's your entire function done. And oh, you have to link that up as well. That's it. That's all we're doing. So that's the item, the function finished. Let's go back to the designer, and actually, sorry, we'll go back to the graph. Now, click on inventory button 1 and view the onClicked, and it'll take us back here. So these are each of the onClicked events for the inventory buttons. When we click on an inventory button, these onClicks get fired. Let's drag out this and use our new function that we made, use item at slot. That's it. This will now use the item at slot number 1. Right, very, very easy. I'm going to right click this copy and then just paste some more of these in. And we'll plug each of these into its own slot. You have to remember that to change the slot names as well. That's 1, that's 2, and then 3. So we can now use the items at our slot. Very cool. Let's compile and save, and if I go back into my game, we can now use it. Now if you remember, I've picked this up, and when we click on the chair, it does nothing. In fact, I think it sends something to the log, I believe. Pretty sure we added it so it sends something to the log. So what happens when we click on the item is this here gets called. This use implementation. You should not be seeing this. That's because this is the base pickup class. We shouldn't be doing this. So let's, and I know, bear with me here, this has been a lot of information. Let's make a pickup. Let's make our first proper pickup. It'll take just a few minutes, and then we can move on to the next tutorial. But this is good. This is cool stuff. This is the last thing. So, say we want to place a chair in our level that we can pick up. Well, to make that, and say we want it to have its own little unique use function. So when we use the chair, it makes the text "hoorah" come up or something like that, right? Just some random text. Let's right click and go create C++ class. We're going to call this pickup underscore chair, and this is the process you will use to put any pickup in your game whatsoever. So we're going to create the class here. Alright, so that's it. We've now added pickup chair. Now remember, pickup chair inherits from pickup. So, what we can do now, this is really cool stuff. We've defined all the pickup stuff in here. But we want each pickup to have its own use implementation. We want it to do its own thing when it's used, right? So what we're going to do is, we'll add a constructor, because why not? So a pickup underscore chair. We'll add this as public, because, again, why not? And what we're going to do is we'll say virtual void use underscore implementation. So we're making a chair pickup, and we're overriding this use implementation from the base pickup class. So now we can use it in our chair, to give chair its own use. Rather than chair just saying, use from the base pickup class, you should not be seeing this, you know, that's useless. We want chair to do something else. We want chair to do hoorah, you know. So, right click this, quick actions, create, and now we can make our chair say hoorah instead of base pickup class, you know. You want each pickup to have its own behavior. So, let's put that in. Once IntelliSense stops being dreadful. Alright, so we've made use implementation. Now let's just do what we said. We'll put hoorah on the screen because, again, why not? So add on-screen debug message, -1, 5.f, f color red. Hoorah! Alright, so we've put hoorah on the screen now. So, that's it. Almost. One little step. It's, again, probably like 30 seconds. We're going to extend it one more time. So we had the chair inherit from pickup. Now we're going to have... Oh, I didn't implement the constructor. We had the chair inherit from pickup. Now we're going to have the chair blueprint inherit from the chair. I know, right? That, like, what the hell am I talking about? Well, you'll see in a sec. It's a commonly used idea in the Unreal Engine to extend stuff to blueprints, and it's really effective. It's really nice. So we added the constructor now. That should compile just fine. Cool. So we've got our pickup chair. That's great. We can drag that in, and then we have to set up the chair and set up the price and all that stuff. What if we want that to already be set when we drag it in? We right click, we go create blueprint class based on pickup chair. Now in my blueprints folder, I'm going to make another folder, and I'm going to call this pickups. So let's go to our inventory, right click chair, create blueprint class, save it to blueprints/pickups. I'm going to call this BP. We'll call it pickup underscore chair BP for blueprint. So we know it's a blueprint. Now we can set it all up in here, and then everyone we drag into the level is all going to be the same. So let's just say I want the chair to be 100 in value. The chair is worth 100. Why not? Thumbnail for the chair is obviously the chair thumbnail, and the item name is chair. The mesh for the chair is the chair. Like that. Now we just go compile, we go save, and now any chair we drag in is all going to be the same. The chair's already set up, so we can drag as many chairs in as we like. Drag that in, drag that in, drag that in, and they're all set up with the predefined values and everything. So we're using the blueprints to set up default values, if that makes sense. I know this has been a lot of information to take in, but this is really cool stuff. So now if I go to my inventory, we've got none, but I can pick these up. Open my inventory, they appear there, and when I click it, hoorah, appears. So for each item, you just inherit from pickup, and then you give it whatever behavior you want it to have. So that is the inventory polished off, the inventory HUD also finished, and we're one step closer finishing this little series. I know it's been a lot of information, but watch this as many times as you need. You're gonna like this when it's fully done. But yeah, some really cool concepts. And anyways, I'll see you guys over at the next video, and we're gonna go over how to make shops.